We're in the last few days of the Mage Hunter Diceless TTRPG Kickstarter. If you haven't already backed this project, I suggest that you run to back it. There are only a few days left. Now, the book is complete with a mini setting, but you can use your own fantasy world, whatever you like. Whether your players want to be a bunch of young mages learning the ropes, or whether you want to compete in the Blood War, all are available to you within this book. Now, you choose when your character succeeds and when it fails and dies. Well, yes, to a large degree, that's how the system works. It's all explained on the website, and character creation is super easy, super fun, leads to lots of really cool combos, magic-wielding swordsmen and the like. There's 7 different disciplines for you to choose from. It's all there, all in the book, everything you could need to run your epic campaign in Mage Hunter. Link down below. So many of you have asked this question: how do you take an idea and translate it into a physical book? Well, I've done it multiple times. This is the way I do it. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of How to Be a Great GM. The Mage Hunter Kickstarter is just doing its thing. Super excited for that. Can't wait for it. But a lot of you were saying, well, look, you've done this a couple times now, 6 or 7 times. How do you do it? How do you go about taking your idea from inside this noggin and how do you turn it into a book? How do you get it out there into the big wide world? It's very daunting, and there are a lot of steps and there are a lot of processes, and it takes a lot of time. I don't think people realize just how much time it actually takes. Now, there are some folks out there who take 10 or more years to produce this material. That's absolutely fine. It's not a race to get your book out there. So I'm going to be talking about the process that I go through, plus some rough timelines as well as costs. So let's start. Of course, you've got to come up with an idea. Now, the idea that you come up with, you need to test this idea. You need to rigorously go, does this make sense? Would I buy this book? And I think that's the bottom line. The first question you have to ask is, would I buy this book? Is this something that I would be interested in? If the answer is no, please don't write the book. Don't do it. Do not do it. Okay? Just don't. Avoid it. I was approached for Epic Locations by Till, the writing partner. And this was in January of a year. And he said, let's write a book together. Okay, cool. What's it going to be on? Locations, making locations cool and wonderful and exciting and providing tools for GMs and stuff. Would I buy that book? Yes, I would buy that book. Well, maybe I need to refine the idea a little bit more. I need to drive it a little bit more. So we then spent 3 months testing the idea. We'd talk to anybody. Oh, well, we're thinking of writing a book on locations, and it's going to do this, and it's going to do that, and it's going to do the next thing. Yeah, okay. We got feedback from people. And here's the critical thing. When you're getting feedback from folks, many people will take your idea and they will try and inject their own, would I buy this? Yes, but only if it included, say, for example, naked go-go girls. So sometimes the feedback is useful and sometimes it isn't. You have to stick to your guns, though. Look at the feedback in terms of, is it going to enhance the product from your perspective, or is it going in a different direction? Don't chase the direction just because one person said go, go, girls. Change direction because you feel that you actually needed to add more in. And that's what we did. We felt that we needed to add more stuff in. We needed adjectives or quick lookup tables. We needed it to be fast and to be practical to use during sessions as well as during play. So in March, this is now 3 months after we decided to start putting the book together and after we had done feedback from a lot of people asking for opinions and things, we got together and decided time to thrash out what's going to be in the book. This took us 4 days of sitting, chatting, talking, writing out stuff, writing out more stuff, creating, going, well, it should be like this, or it should be like that, or this is how we should do it, or this is how we should do it. We broke the book up into 3 sections. Then we went away. We thought about it some more. We broke it up into different sections. Then the first writing started. So we haven't started writing anything yet, okay? And we're multiple months now already into the journey of this project. Then we started writing stuff. And boy, did Till start writing stuff. He'd almost written 40,000 words by the time he went, okay, I think you should have a look at the first iteration. It was certainly not the first iteration. It was an iteration, but it missed a whole lot of stuff that we'd been speaking about, and that was my opportunity to jump in and create material there. But also the direction he'd gone in was not the same direction that I had thought it was going to go in. So we needed to tie the two together. Long story short, for the next 4
Mage
months,
Hunter, my diceless role-playing system, has already launched and is fully funded! That's right, fully funded! What do you get in the Kickstarter? Well, how about some STLs of the unique blood mages that can be found lurking within the pages of Mage Hunter? These unique STLs have been custom designed specifically for the use in Mage Hunter. They are absolutely gorgeous. They come to us from mammothfactorygames.com, making beautiful minis. So what are blood mages? Well, they use the power of the life force inherently held within blood to empower their magic, to double its efficacy, to turn normal spells into terrifying bolts of pure evil. So now the numbers started. That's also the joy of Mage Hunter, is that you can customize any spell you like. Mage Hunter on Kickstarter now.
Lots of stuff was cut out. We saved it all, but upon reflection, it was a good thing. So now we've rewritten this book multiple times. In the case of Mage Hunter, I've followed the same process. I don't have a partner I'm writing Mage Hunter with. It's all on me, so I don't have that ability to reflect and to have different opinions. But I've been on the same journey. As a matter of fact, I've been on a longer journey with Mage Hunter. You see, Epic Locations was a research book. It was looking at the locations that exist in our world and then trying to present them in a useful, valuable way. Mage Hunter is rules. Rules upon rules upon rules. It's meant to be a simple rule system. So that means every time we come up with a rule, it has to follow the principal rule of, is it simple? Is it yes or no? And so that has taken a long time. Mage Hunter I've been writing for 1.5 years, and that's already based on something that I took several months to write previously, Bounty Hunter. So the process of how long it takes to get the book into a written form varies from project to project. But once you've got the book into a written space, that's when the real work starts. Because now you have to go back to the book and you have to check everything in that book. Does it comply? Because when you are writing, and you are writing a serious document, 50, 60, 70,000 words, you will forget what you have written previously. You will go, oh yes, that one sentence I added in suddenly breaks everything in another chapter. So it's about revisiting and relooking, and also realizing if this is your first book or your 5th book or your 15th book, what you start as your written work, what you start writing, your style might change halfway through the book or 3/4 of the way through the book. You might decide, first person narrative was not the right way to go. I need to go as a third person. Instead of saying you, it's us. Instead of saying as a player, it should be the player. Little things like that, which make the book so much stronger to read and also clearer. Clarity is what you're after. You've written the book, and that takes you as long as it takes you. You will never finish writing a book, by the way. At least certainly I have never finished writing a book. I've always got to a point where I'm like, oh, I could add that in. I could add some more of this in, and I could do that. With Mage Hunter, I was like, oh, I could just add in an entire ship-to-ship combat system in there. It won't be too hard. It'll only take up an extra 150 pages, 60 pages, and also delay things by several more months. And is it core to what the book was about? No, it's not really. And sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'll go, I have to add this. I have to add this to the book. If I don't add it to the book, the whole book is going to be useless. And I'll go in and I'll thrash out some words and I'll go, this feels familiar. And I'll check the book and I'll realize that I've already done it, but I forgot that I added it. So the writing process is a fickle and strange journey. Give yourself time to do it. And once you are finished with what I tentatively call your first draft, and so now you have written this thing multiple times, that's then when you need to expose it to people. You need to show it to others. Because you have been so invested, so involved in this project. You know what is in your head, and you think you've put that onto the paper. You think that people reading this will get the same thing. But there might be some things that you've left out, which are filled in your head, but not on the page. So now you give it to proofreaders. Well, not even proofreaders. You just give it to readers. Let them see it. Share it around. They're really not going to make a dent in your sales. If you've given it to 7 or 8 people, you've lost 7 or 8 sales. No, you really haven't. You've gained 700 or 800 sales because those 8 people will give you feedback. And they'll say, well, it's great, a paragraph, but I don't understand what it means. And you're like, but look, if you read this paragraph and you also know the following, oh, I need to add in that following. I need to add in that extra level of detail, which I took for granted, but which a reader might not know. So you get that going, and that can take months. For Mage Hunter, I had 2 dedicated role-playing teams playing Mage Hunter weekly. And every week I'd get pages and pages of notes and reviews going,
yes, no. Just no, it doesn't make sense. We've used the build that you've put together, the mechanics, and we've created something that's more powerful than a god.
You need that feedback. And even with Epic Locations, we sent it out to people and they read it and they came back going, I did not know that. I also don't think I needed to know that. Right, cut it out. We can save some paragraphs there so we can embellish further on where people have asked for embellishments further on. It's a process. That's all that you need to know. It's a long process. Do it. Go on that journey. Finally, after about a year, maybe even more than that, if you're dedicated to this, right? Remember, my full-time job is creating content. So it's not like I'm doing this for an hour in an evening. I'm doing it for 8 hours a day. So I have more time to focus on this thing. So don't beat yourself up if it's taking you longer than I'm describing in time. Eventually, you get to the point where you have a manuscript. You've got your final sort of draft. Now it's time to take it and get some money, because you need money to make money. I hate that saying, but it is so very true. So you go and you decide you want to use Kickstarter. Why not? At the worst, if your Kickstarter fails, people have learned about your project. Yes, it didn't work, but when you launch it again, those people will remember and go, oh yeah, you didn't make it last time. What have you changed? So you have an opportunity to reflect, change, and do better. But if the Kickstarter does work, well, now suddenly you're in a very different playing field, because now you have to deliver this book. So Kickstarter is also not just a simple beast. There are many aspects to Kickstarter, primarily the marketing. You want to market the book before your Kickstarter launches. You want to try and get followers to follow your Kickstarter page or whatever crowdfunding model you're using. You want people to know about it. So that means you've got to put advertising up on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on wherever you possibly can. And if you don't have a social media presence, well, that's where you make a partnership with someone like Yelp or BackerKit or whomever. There are companies out there who are absolutely eager to take your project and present it to the world. Our general experience with the one that we like to work the most with, which is BackerKit, is that they will give us a 2/3 return. So if we spend 1/3 of the whole, 2/3 will come back to us. For the last book, I think we spent something in the region of £25,000. We got back 50. That's not too bad at all. Covering the 25, of course, as well. So technically we got back 75. So we made 50, we spent 25. I'm not a mathematician. That's all the web goblin's job. Anyway, so the point is, we got lucky. And then they're doing all of the advertising for you. But they're going to want elements. They're going to want something to actually promote. So this is something that you need to take into account. If your book is going to have a cover and the cover is iconic, you need to hire someone to do that cover. Good friends of mine, Nerdarchy, they released their book a couple of years ago now on Kickstarter, and they needed to have a cover design. The design of the cover was $1,500 for an artist to come in and create the cover. At Great GM, I have the luxury and the joy of being an artist myself, and so I make the artwork myself. But we've still spent over $15,000 on assets. So it's not like it's a cheap enterprise. This is probably your biggest financial outlay, is creating a cover that has impact and then creating a Kickstarter page that is going to make people want to buy your book. Now, we're very lucky. Our graphic designer, who does all of the beautiful page layouts for us, he has a deal with us. He'll do those page layouts free of charge, provided that we hire him to do the entire book. We have never not hired him. He is amazing, he's a genius, he's wonderful, and he does beautiful work, and so without hesitation we do it. If the Kickstarter fails, we still compensate him for his time. He put in work, sure, but we need to make sure that he remains happy. We want him for the next project. So when you see our Kickstarters and there's all these images and graphics and things, those are done for a purpose. They are done to make sure people invest in the book. Finally, once Kickstarter is up and running, there's communication. Kickstarter lasts for 30 days on average, and it's just talking to the backers. They're going to have lots of questions, regardless of whether you have an FAQ or not. It's just the nature of the beast. Hopefully you have generated your funding by the time the Kickstarter is over, and that is then when you need to kick it up a notch. Now, your Kickstarter, you may have done things like stretch goals. Oh, we'll add in an extra chapter of this. Oh, we'll add in an extra chapter of that. In the case of Epic Locations, we added in an extra 5 chapters or 5 entries per location. We hadn't really considered the page count impact that that was going to have. As a result, the page count went up, the web goblin and the distribution costs went up, and things started to look a little bit shaky until we realized that there were some areas that we could pull out, because during the surveys, during the feedback and that sort of thing, the readers had said, well, that's not very interesting, so you can take that out. So it's a juggling act. So once again, we're back to writing. And that brings me to the next point. Once you have got your funding, you need to hire an editor. Editors are expensive. On average, they will sit somewhere between 5 to 10 US cents a word. 80,000 words, $8,000. That's what they might charge if they're a top-notch editor. Okay, $8,000 is just so that they will read your book and point out your mistakes. I've had some wonderful editors working on my books in the past, and hopefully in the future. They come in and they go, well, you said this, but that. You said this, but that. Bear in mind, if you are writing a rules book, you will need a developmental editor as well as a regular editor. They will charge you probably the same. Developmental editors are looking at, well, you said this rule over here, but 500 pages later, you said this rule, they contradict each other. No developmental editor will ever catch all of the inconsistencies in your rules, all of the small minor infractions here and there. Major companies get it wrong because there is just so many moving parts, it's almost impossible for one person to be able to track them all. But a developmental editor is super useful. You said that a bow does 100 points of damage, but a crossbow only does 5? Explain? Anyway. You need an editor. You need a developmental editor. And then you need, of course, artwork. Artwork is your big expense at this point in time. It's not your biggest, but it is a big expense. On average, you might have an image every 4 or 5 pages. If you're doing 200 pages, that's 50 images. Each image might set you back in the region of, especially if you tell the artist what you're using it for, it might set you back in the region of around $300 to $500 US. That's a significant chunk of change to commission that artwork. And let me tell you, commissioning the artwork is not just a case of saying, oh, hi, Frank, I need you to draw 50 pictures of a fantasy book for my fantasy book. You have to brief each and every single one of those artists on the content of that image. They're not just going to create an image. You need to say, oh, I'd like for this page, I'd like a dragon fighting a unicorn. The artist will come up with 1,000 variations. You will have to choose which one if the artist does that. Otherwise, the artist will say, no, well, you got to tell me. Is it sunrise, sunset? Is it morning? Is it raining? Is it evening? Is it dark? Is it dusk? Is the unicorn winning? Is the dragon winning? What color is the dragon? What color is the unicorn? Or do I have free reign? And then suddenly you get back a pink unicorn and a tartan-colored dragon, and you're like, no. So the handling of the artwork is quite the task and can take quite a lot of time to acquire. 6 months, maybe more. Make sure you factor that in. Of course, the artwork is nothing without some kind of graphic designer coming in, and I've already spoken about graphic designers. Graphic designers will come in. They might charge you $10 a page, $15 a page, depending on how good they are and how renowned they are, and they're worth every cent. It doesn't end there. Because once you've got all the artwork and you've got all of the stuff put in place, once again, you need someone to go through and read it all. And it's best if it's not you. You are so close to this project. You know every word in this project. So when you are reading sentences, your brain is filling in anything that you might skip. This is where you go back to your editor and you might have to pay them an additional fee for them to read through that book again, but now they're reading it through as a PDF. To make sure that paragraphs have been blocked and positioned in an appropriate way so that everything makes sense. The full show here, folks. This is the full journey I'm giving you. Finally, Once that's done, you then need to find a printer and you need to find a distributor. And this is where the real cost comes in. Printers are all over the world. Don't print anything in the US. The cost is simply too high. Most people will say print in China, where you can print your book for $3 and then sell it for $60. Yes, but what they don't tell you is that the shipping charges from China to everywhere else in the world will make your shipping $30 a book, as opposed to, say, printing in Europe, where your shipping becomes $12 a book and the book only costs £5 to print. So you've got to shop around. You've got to look at the markets that you are serving. If you are serving only European markets, well, printing in Europe makes sense. If you are only serving the American market, unfortunately, the American printers are simply so costly, it's still cheaper to print outside and then ship the books in. So finding a printer is one thing. The printer is then going to want to have a proof that you send through to them, and they're going to have requirements. They're going to send things back going, oh, this is not flat black, or this is a vector and it should be a this, or this should be in CMYK. They're going to have a lot of technical questions. So once again, having a graphic designer who knows what they're doing, who is charging you for that knowledge, having one of those folks to sit around and go, yes, this is right, I understand what the printers are asking for, and send back is great. The printers are also going to ask you one very critical question, and this question is, how many books are we printing? You can spend $20,000, $30,000 printing books. If you can't sell them, they're going to sit in a warehouse, and that warehouse is going to charge you $20, $50, $60 a month while those books sit there doing nothing. So you need to have a game plan. Are you going to print just enough books for your Kickstarter? Are you going to print just enough books plus 100 at least? I would advise that, because shipping companies will ship the books. They will arrive damaged, so you'll have to send another one. Or they won't arrive at all, so you'll have to send another one. Or people go, yeah, okay, I saw the Kickstarter, but I missed it. Can I get a physical copy? It's a sale you don't want to miss. Distribution companies are all over the place. You can find them. You can find the good guys. You can find the bad guys. It is just a matter of finding someone who works with you and who will help you. And then they will do the distribution. And that, generally speaking, is where a huge cost comes in. The price of shipping fluctuates up and down and around and left and right. And you're going to find, like most Kickstarters, that shipping to anywhere other than basically America, North America, Europe, and Australia, pretty much anywhere else, is just too expensive to include on your Kickstarter. So if you are like us, you simply won't ship anywhere else. You won't ship to South America, you won't ship to Africa, and unfortunately, it is what it is. Anyway, those are all of the expenses, those are the costs, so the whole thing can be incredibly daunting. Now, that's if you go on that kind of scale of production. I know of many other folks who've written a small 20, 30-page book. They've had it printed locally as a folded magazine or as a pamphlet of some kind. They go to conventions, they sell a couple hundred, and then suddenly the fame rises, and then they're selling hundreds online on a website or on Amazon, things like that. It is entirely possible. I just wanted to give you some insight into how we do it. And as much as it sounds like a complete nightmare and it's absolute chaos and there's all sorts of things going on, which there is, it is incredibly rewarding when your fans send you back pictures of them holding their book going, it's just arrived, it's beautiful, and I love it. That's the reward that we get. Anyway, I hope this has given you some insight. I know it's not very much on DMing, but it is on how to get your content out there. The big alternative is just to go digital. Just to go digital. Forget printing, right? Go digital. We make 100% back on every PDF we sell. There's no shipping fees, there's no printing fees, there's no lost shipping fees, there's no reprinting fees. It's 100% back on every PDF we make. Our gamers, our market, our target audience, they like books. We have books behind us because we like books. So the PDF, although you will get sales, the book is where folks really want to go to. If you want to know more on this process, you want to know my thoughts on DM's Guild or on Drive-Thru RPG, happy to share those with you. We use the one, we don't use the other. But that would be for another video. Until next time, happy gaming.